Yo,
Hello.
are we there? We're there. Okay.
Yes, we're here.
All right. I'm gonna put the hey everybody. Hi. I'm looking at you, audience. Hello, spooky dudes. Back. I'm Corey. This guy over here. If you were ever afraid of those three claws on the edge of the hand of I don't even know what kind of creature it is. It's a mammal,
Sloth.
a sloth. If you ever thought about how a sloth could kill somebody with its claws, which I always thought about as a child for some weird reason, you've probably heard of Slotherhouse. It came out in 2023. It's I'm going to call it a modern slasher comedy classic. That's what I'm going to call it.
Oh.
Bradley Fowler, the writer and producer, is here. What's up, man?
Hi. Thank you for the warm intro.
Hey, I'm practicing. I'm getting a little bit better every time.
This is great. This is great. Introducing someone who wrote something so stupid can't be too easy.
It's well, we were talking a little bit before the show started. Hold on, I gotta give a shout out here. Ben, hi, thank you for tuning in on Twitch. He is a bearded wonder. He has a crazy beard. It's like it's a Viking kind of.
Yeah, I like it.
You know what he the God of War guy, whatever that guy's name is in the video game. Can't remember.
Cronin, is that it?
Or I don't know. Ben probably knows. I played those games. I forget. But no, Slotherhouse, very indie film, but Kratos, that's it. Okay, Kratos, thank you, man. Yeah, that's it. Indie film doesn't look indie though. And we were talking about this before the show, and I can get to compliment you on that because it does it reeks of well made. How about that? Put that on the box. That's a poster quote.
Yeah, I'll take it because it's tempting to do a silly idea, at its lowest common denominator, but we wanted to do it at its highest, as high as we could achieve, at least as an independent. But yeah, a lot of things go into like making something look as studio as we could without actually having any backing of the studios.
Yeah, no, it's great. I want to well, let's talk about how it started out, right? Because like I said, when I was a kid, I would see those pictures of sloths and books, and I think there was these little action figures I used to collect. They were animals, battle beasts.
And they had the fire, wood, and water. And the whole point of the game was to put your thumb over. It was basically like paper, rock, scissors, but then nobody ended up playing that way because the stickers fell off after like one use.
I never got to do that with anybody. I guess I just played solo most of the time as a kid, but the stickers did fall off, but I never even thought it was I never knew it was a game. I just thought, what a weird thing to put on the chest of these little animals. But there was a sloth.
There was.
And I thought, Wolverine from Marvel Comics, he's got the three claws, and then you got this sloth. But then it turned out they're pretty slow moving, gentle creatures, I guess. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. Scarier looking than they are. But how did this come about? Because I think it's a brilliant idea, honestly.
Well, honestly, like you, like I've always sort of obsessed with absurdity. Like as a little kid, my big one was I was obsessed with aardvarks. I don't know why. I just thought aardvarks were cool. I think it's just a weird name, and their cousins, the anteaters, and I like them a lot. So, it sort of followed me into adulthood. But how this specific movie came to pass is it's a really I find it to be a fun story, but it's primarily an actor while I was in Hollywood, and I wasn't getting nearly the auditions that I wanted to get. So, like most actors, I was complaining a lot, and my good friend Bob, he always gets mad because I call him the little old man, but I mean, definitionally speaking, he is those things. Are those things? Anyways, he is, and he contacted me and he was like, hey, why don't you come down to Florida? You need a break, stop being so like upset and, stop letting the industry get to you and come to Florida and you can hang out at my house and we'll drink some Fosters and sit on the beach. And he finally convinced me to do it. And there I was sitting on his couch. We're having a Foster's beer and watching a football game. And, Bob, being the wonderful friend that he is, basically acting as a therapist at the moment and asking me what's going on. And I don't know, Bob, I can't get auditions. My first movie didn't make any money, yada, yada, yada. And he goes, well, what makes money? And I go, I don't know, Bob, stupid shit. And he goes, well, what's the dumbest idea you can come up with? I'm not kidding. That is word for word how it went down. And so right then and there, we started joking around about a killer sloth. The name Slotherhouse came out of that. And then we sort of came up with the concept of the first kill on the couch, which was the lightning. I don't want to give anything away to anybody that hasn't seen it, but the sort of lightning flashing scene, because we didn't want to give away that the sloths were actually secretly fast or anything like that. Yeah, so then the last thing that I'll add on to that, without going into too long of a story about it, is I took that, banged out a draft of the script, which is basically like a hard R version of the movie, which I'd still like to see.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I would love to see that version, because that's where the irony would be the at its peak. But I presented that to my dear friend and now business partner Katie Lanigan, and she really loved the idea. And from there, we started going into business together, and we decided we were going to make the movie. So then there's a bunch of things, but yeah, that's sort of how it came to be, how it started.
Yeah. Well, honestly, that's a really good like origin story for it.
Yeah.
It does a good job of blending, and I think these are two difficult things to work with. When you're blending comedy and horror, I think it's really tough. Like, because if you go too hard in one, it pretty much gets disingenuous with the other, right? Like, trying to think of a good example. I don't really want to trash anything, but it's, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Okay,
perfect. I love that movie.
Great movie.
Yeah.
I think it leans harder into the comedy than the horror. Like it's which is kind of how I feel about Slotherhouse. I think that it's correct. More comedic than horrific, but it doesn't veer off so hard that I'm like I'm not, putting my horror pinky out and like turning my nose up at it and getting all pissed off, whereas a lot of horror comedies I just get really turned off by, where it's just the kind of schlocky. I don't mind schlock, but it's kind of like what was the movie that came out in sci-fi, made a big Sharknado? Oh, remember when Sharknado came out?
Like, yeah, we were desperately trying to avoid that while trying to get the same buzz, but we did not want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, I actually like Sharknado, but after Sharknado came out, I'm not even going to talk about the sequels. That's whatever. But like, how many mega, zombie clown tornado, things started trying to like take that cheese, get that shark cheese. But this doesn't do that.
No, I hope it doesn't. I'm sure for some people it certainly does. I mean, my general theory on writing anything is like, I don't go out to, I go out to write a horror movie. Really, I wrote a horror movie, and then leaned into the absurdity of the moments, and then also usually after writing the first draft, to add the comedy, then I start to layer in the characters, the vocabulary shifts, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, I don't want to, like, if I go about trying to make jokes, I feel like they come across sort of disingenuous. But if I go about just making a horror movie and then gaslighting the absurdity so that the audience knows that we know that it's stupid, I feel like it's sort of enjoyable that way. And I believe when done correctly, and I can't say that all of the movie is that, but I feel like then you have an opportunity to also add the layer of getting people to digest your premise or your theory that you want to get across, which, you know, obviously for ours was, you know, similar to like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It was really just like it was really a warning about technology and all of that stuff and the ails of technology, and using absurdity to get across that message.
Yeah.
But that, you know, I try to do things. I try to do stupid things intelligently, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No,
Guess.
I think, well, the way I found out about this movie was weird too. I didn't like find out about it because you were coming to FrankenCon. I had, like, you know, in my circles locally, I'm like the horror guy, right? Like,
Mhm.
but that's the horror guy with like all my friends being kind of the normies, right? And they're like, oh, well, he's had to watch Cannibal Holocaust 8,000 times, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm getting these texts saying, have you heard about Slotherhouse? I'm like, are you misspelling something? You know? And even when I went to my Roku and I hit the microphone, it says Slotherhouse. It typed Slaughterhouse and that big
Every time.
dude with the, you know, the meat cleaver.
Mhm.
But no, it is fun, and and I think it pokes fun at some like modern trope stuff that kind of drives me nuts, right? Like the influencer thing, and I gotta get all these likes and clicks and look, if we have social media presences and we want to spread podcasts and things like that, of course we want people to share our stuff, but like the people that get so obsessed with it that it's like their identity, you know.
Yeah, well, and I mean that's really the comment that it is like, essentially, how far are you willing to go for popularity? And we're basically like, I mean, the whole concept of the sloth, like, you know, being this sort of thing that you bring into the house that somehow kills people in order to get popular. Well, you know, the fact that it is such a ridiculous thing to bring into the house, I
Yes.
think sort of is sort of my subtle comment on the ridiculousness of going over the top on social media. Like I said, like some of it is, of course, great. Social media away. Our movie wouldn't be known if it wasn't for social media. That being said, I do think there is a certain point where the pendulum swings a little bit too far, and I think
Yeah.
that's sort of one of the comments we were trying to make with Slotherhouse. Like, are you willing to bring in a killer sloth to your house just to get likes? You know, it's like that's
Well,
sort
she views it as an accessory, right? Like
yeah,
she's basically like if I have this, you know, this little Frankenstein guy, people will love me. I'll take lots of
yeah,
pictures for my Instagram.
yeah.
But she's, you know,
Well,
but
that's people do that. I mean, there when we were looking at the places to shoot Slotherhouse, one of the first places we looked was Los Angeles, and there was this like sort of, you know, budget studio, where like essentially it was just this giant house that if you went into this giant house, you all the rooms were like you like walked down a corridor and all of a sudden it was a hospital, and then you walked into another room and it was like um, uh, uh, a courtroom and et cetera, et cetera. And there was like a nightclub in there, but um, you went outside and there was like literally an airplane. And they're like, and I was like, well, what the heck is this for? Other, you know, well, you obviously, you know, shoot movies there. Well, he's like, actually, the majority of the money that we get for that is people that do want to do like Instagram photos to make it look like they're on private jets. And it's like, and
wow.
it sort of speaks to that whole like, oh, here's this thing that will make people artificially like me. And I'm just like, I just can't think of anything more gross, quite frankly.
That reminds me of something that was happening in like the late 90s, early 2000s. They would, you know, the kind of bling thing would start happening in you know, popular mainstream rap music, and
Mm-hmm.
like the thing was to have the biggest pendant with the most diamonds, and so people started like leasing them or renting them from from jewelers and stuff, and I'm just like, what's
The
the point, man?
incredibly wealthy people leasing things that they can't afford. It's just absurd. I don't know, but everybody has their own things. Like I'm obsessed with like Star Wars miniatures, like you know, and I'm sure everybody be like, well, that's stupid and a waste of time. Like, well, not to me. You know?
Dude, I got dumb crap everywhere. By the way, if you do collect action figures,
Oh my
the
god, yes!
these NECA Puppet Master figures are amazing.
Oh, those are so. That's so sweet.
He's got two sets of hands, so like you can take his pistol grip hands out and put like, you know, normal hands. Yeah, these are awesome, dude.
I do not. I haven't been able to get into collecting action figures
I
yet.
don't recommend it.
No, I want to, but I like to do. I won't call them out. I won't put them on blast. I won't put him on blast here.
Oh,
But one of our guys that we worked on the movie, his entire wall to wall in his let's just say office is covered in action figures, and I'm like, oh my god, that's what I want, but I just can't. I couldn't do it yet. My wife would kill me. Maybe with the success of Slotherhouse 2, then maybe she'd be willing to bend on it.
hey, merchandise opportunity. Some alpha figures and
Alpha figures are gonna crush. I think had we have been through a studio system, I think it would have already done that. I mean, we do have our shirts in Hot Topic right now, which is pretty cool.
that's cool.
But we had an opportunity to potentially get merchandise in stores all around the country, but the issue was, again, we were a 100% independent movie. So when we were contacted by the merchandising companies, it was, I mean, like the runway was like a week and a half before it was in theaters, which is the peak time that they really want to get it off. So we're really hoping that by part two, like Terrifier was a great example. I mean, those guys I have so much respect for. They did such a good job of not just building a movie, but they built an iconic character.
Yeah,
And that's one of the things I think that's so important about horror movies specifically is if you can build an iconic character that people want to play with in their head, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Then you can make movies for as long as you can make them because they are in their head. It's like Jason Voorhees is Jason Voorhees on the screen, right? But Jason Voorhees in all of our own heads as horror fans is different because we've all sort of gone out there and had our own imaginary adventure when we were camping or when we're just thinking about horror movies or whatever. And I think
yeah.
that's the key. But anyways, I went on a tangent again, but I think the Terrifier did a really good job of building a base with their first one so that the audience knew the character. And then when Terrifier 1 came out, they really got into to knowing the character. By the time they got out to Terrifier 2, which is the third time Art came up, I mean, well,
Right.
Art had a fan base.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We got a comment here. Oh, I know who this is. That's Kaylee. Kaylee Guerrero.
Hello.
She was your neighbor at the con across the way.
Yeah.
Hey, Kaylee.
Hello.
Yeah, it's a good point about art. Like art, I mean, it's kind of like we're kind of waiting to see with Thanksgiving. We were talking about Thanksgiving before we started recording, and that's the new. I guess that's the newest thing. It just came out in November, and we've got this John Carver character, which he's kind of got the. I know Art doesn't really talk, but Art's got the benefit of
the facial,
emoting. Yeah, like and David Howard Thornton, like his facial expressions are insane.
so good. Yeah.
So, time will tell. They already greenlit the sequel, Thanksgiving 2, but I mean, you never know if you're going to be the next Jason or Michael Myers or what. I guess Victor Crowley was in the Hatchet movies, the Adam Green movies. You never know. So
you don't. I mean, I think for any filmmakers, I think, you want to be as genuine as you can with it, but you also want to move forward with a roadmap. Like our objective was to make something that would be like a modern day Chucky. Something that sort of had that same appeal, because if you think about it, Chucky's ridiculous too. It's like the thought of a doll actually being able to do any of us harm is ridiculous.
Like you could hunt him. Like any normal built person could just kick this doll and it would never get near them, but somehow he does it.
Exactly. And it's also what I love about the Child's Play movies is the kills are so fun.
Oh yeah.
And the character is fun. So my point is that if you're a filmmaker and you're going about trying to create something like that, you don't know if you're going to be the next Jason Voorhees or what have you. I think you should try to make an objective to do so.
Yeah.
to say, hey, well, what is our target character that we're going to try to fit in the same line with, and then what audience are we looking for? Like obviously we really wanted to appeal to horror fans, but we also wanted to appeal to younger demographic that just loves sloths as well, that wanted to be able to come along for the ride as well. We keep getting compared to as a like a horror starter pack for kids. Slotherhouse gets put into a lot, and I think that's great. It's like if you're a dad who loves horror and you can take your like 9, 10, 11, 12-year old to a horror movie and it's Slotherhouse, I think that's fantastic. And hopefully the character can get progressively more violent as she grows. And with the audience, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, it's like, there had to be something to get us into this stuff. Gremlins, Monster Squad,
Hell yeah.
I mean, stuff I watched as a kid for sure. And uh, if you're gatekeeping it all at a hard R, I'm sure we watched stuff before we should have,
Yeah, we fought for it. It's like everybody had that one parent who's or one friend whose parents had no intention of parenting.
Yeah.
It's like you go over for your like third grade birthday party and you're watching Bloodsport and Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
So I went to school with a guy whose dad was one of the producers on the original Evil Dead.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because I grew up in Morristown where they filmed it, and he's like, I don't know how old I was, man. Let's just say 10. And he's like, come to my house, I'll show you your VHS copy of Evil Dead. And I asked my parents about it, and they're like, sure, just watch out for that pencil scene. I'm like, what? And I watched it and I was like, this is crazy. Like, this
You
is
can't get it out of your head then you're like thinking about it for
no, it was really, I still love that movie. I still love the first one.
Yeah.
Kaylee said me watching the OG 73 Exorcist in first grade.
Oh, horrifying.
Whoa. The problem with that for me, I know my interviews tend to get off the rails, but the problem with that for me is I think I would have been bored with The Exorcist. Like at that age, I don't know that I would have had the patience to like get through to the really cool possession scenes, because that movie is a slow burn, especially at the beginning.
It is. I will say I remember watching The Exorcist when I was a little kid, but I didn't watch the whole thing. I was downstairs and my dad kicked us out of the room so that him and his friend, I think, could watch Exorcist. And then my sister and I we kept watching from the top of the stairs, and we like peek underneath the rail, and we just caught a few scenes of it. And I think when you're that age, all you need is a couple of images, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's horrifying. Exorcist to me is like that would be a bit much at that age. But Freddy was
Well,
man, when you're a little kid, Freddy was the best.
Brad, how old are you?
Oh, come on now.
Well, what year were you born? You don't have to tell me how old you are. What year?
Well, then I just I'm 43.
Okay, so I'm 42. I'll be 43 in November. Okay,
Mhm.
So I don't remember where I was going. No, I got it. When you and I were kids, Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street were a big deal.
Massive.
But they were making freaking squirt guns out of Freddy and Jason's heads and selling them to us. I wasn't watching those movies. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't watch Friday the 13th till I was probably at least like 13 or 14.
I got to be honest, I was watching some of those. But again, a lot of it came down to I had a couple of friends who, again, their parents my next door neighbor, his dad let him watch all the Freddy movies. I mean, I couldn't have been more than 7 or 8. But I remember convincing my dad to let me go to Freddy's Dead, which is a horrible movie.
Hey, hey,
Compared to the other ones.
hey.
Compared to the other ones.
Don't compare it though. That's
Well, but here's the thing. This is my caveat to it. When I look at it through the lens that I saw it,
yeah.
it holds such a special place in my heart because it was one of the first R horror movies my dad let me go to.
Okay.
And so, as much as to me, my favorite nightmare movies are 1 and 4 and 3, and then I go to Freddy's Dead. Usually, it's the other way around with the 3 and 4.
Yeah.
But Freddy's Dead, as much as like as I watch as an adult, I'm like, it's not as good as the other ones. But for me, it was so special because like I convinced my dad at whatever that age it was 8, however old I was, I convinced him that I should be able to go because he only swears a couple of times.
That's the biggest sin in all those films. A couple of cuss words really get you.
He's like murdering people. It's like, no, Dad. He only says the F word twice.
He's murdering children. But by the way, he only drops 2 F-bombs, Dad. Come on.
So
Live
cool,
a little. Right? Live a little. No, that's nostalgia is important, man. I mean, it's really powerful, you know?
Yeah.
But that movie, you know, again, like back to the horror comedy thing, that one in particular is pretty silly, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
But it's got some super memorable scenes in it. That's the one with Super Freddy, right?
I believe so, yeah.
And Roseanne and Tom Arnold and Alice Cooper's his dad, right?
And I think in the 3D stuff as well.
Yeah.
It was it was pretty ridiculous, but I don't know, man. Those movies just if you saw it when you were young, it's like you had to be there. It's like, you know, I still like one of my favorite movies of all time was like to your point, Monster Squad.
Yeah.
Because again, it was one of those horror movies that I believe it was PG-13. Which even then it was a stretch because I wasn't old enough to go to a PG-13 movie, but
it's definitely not R. I could almost see it being PG. I'm looking it up. It's PG-13. Yeah. Because it would have been after Gremlins was the movie.
Yeah, Gremlins was 1984. I think Monster Squad is 87. Do you have it open?
That's right.
Yeah.
And Gremlins is terrifying. Like this is the hardest PG because Gremlins is PG, right? It's not even PG-13.
Yeah.
Hold on, we got another comment here. Jason from the dungeon. Everybody, if you're in Maryville, go check out the dungeon at Southland. Buy some physical media from my buddy Jason there. And Jason was at FrankenCon as well. So I don't know if you guys met, but he had a booth with lots of VHS and all that good stuff.
I think I have one on my wall right here.
I love Monster Squad. I don't think it's a good movie though. Like I think it's kind of objectively not great, but I love it.
Well, again, I think it goes back to that whole like, as long as if you're right, like if you look at it and you're like, okay, well, objectively as an adult, when I've seen a million movies, and sure, but like when you see it through the lens of the 8 or 9-year-old that saw it for the first time in the 1980s,
that's it's one of the only movies too that like. It's horror enough because these characters are based on the, you know, Universal monsters or whatever. And they're horror enough, but it's kids that were our age, roughly, you know, actually holding their own against them, which is cool. Yeah. I mean, that helps you kind of get past the fear of, you know, and Dracula picking up the Phoebe, you bitch. Like that's a weird thing to put in a movie for kids.
Kicking Wolfman in the nuts and the nards.
Wolfman's got nards. That's one of the best lines of all time.
Well, and to me, I don't think there was anything scarier in the 1980s than a werewolf. I mean, the werewolf practical effects at the time, sure, because of the limitations of the movements of the, you know, what they could do.
Yeah.
Your imagination had to do most of the work, but the visuals of the werewolves back then, the transformation of those movies. I mean,
you're saying in the 80s, right? Like, so we had The Howling and American Werewolf, like that.
I might have the dates wrong on, but that time, my childhood, 80s maybe late 70s. Yeah, when they were doing everything practical with werewolves. Oh my gosh.
Those changed the game, dude. Like those.
Horrifying.
And a timely comment from Kaylee here. She says the practical effects in those movies just hit different than the recent stuff. I think the practicality those movies had psychologically messed with the viewers in a good way.
They did.
I agree. I mean, we're getting to the point where, and I have a question about this later, but where AI and computer generated imagery is getting pretty good, right? Like, I think Jurassic Park might have been the first movie where the CGI didn't look like absolute
Yeah.
crap. But we, even since then, like, we've come to such a ridiculous point with this stuff.
Well, it is, but then I also I would say I don't think Slotherhouse would have had the positive response that it had if we didn't do it practically.
No, I 100% agree. And it looks good. Like, that's your make or break thing, right? Like, there's a lot of things that the audience will give you leeway with, but if it's a movie about a freaking sloth who's going through a sorority house killing these girls, the sloth better look cool, right?
Yeah.
It better not look like, Andy Serkis in a mocap suit or whatever.
Well, and there's also the temptation of and we had a lot of creative meetings, but thank God my partner Katie and I had the same mindset on it, which was essentially like this thing has to be done with a puppet and practically, because there was a lot of pushback and saying, well, why don't we just do it CGI? Because the sloth's in so much of the movie, it's going to be really hard to do with a puppet, and that's true. It was incredibly hard. So there was pushback from a lot of the voices in the room, that either A, we should move it to CGI, or B, we should limit the amount that the sloth is in, and we'll just do like the whole cameras watching them thing. And I'm just like, I can't do that with this, because the whole concept of Alpha, at least for the original movie, is that it's sort of both cute and adorable and evil. And it needed to have that relationship with the girls, at least for this version of the story.
Yeah.
Well, you can't really do that if it's just a camera watching from the laundry basket. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's like there was a meme about, I don't know if it was one of the Marvel movies or something. It's like, and I don't hate Marvel. I'm not Martin Scorsese. I don't hate Marvel movies. I like them. Are some of them vapid and soulless? Sure. But they're a damn sight better than the comic book movies we used to get.
Mm-hmm.
By God. But they were showing like a tennis ball or something, and you have to act like that tennis ball is Thanos. Like how tricky that is,
Yeah.
Like, let's see. Dixie is here. Dixie, hello.
Whoa.
Dixie and Kaylee, they were neighbors of you at FrankenCon as well. So Franken family reunion.
Yeah, we ended up chatting quite a bit.
Kaylee says, I agree. I feel like it helps the actors have a level of authenticity when acting with something tangible. 100%.
Now, I will say there is a space for CGI. There's some things that I really wanted to do with Alpha that would, I don't want to say be impossible with a puppet, but would be impossible at our budget with a puppet.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know exactly where Alpha and Slotherhouse will go from here, but I'd like to keep with practicality, for sure. But I'd also like to have a little bit more freedom of movement with Alpha, which either means bumping up the budget for what we're able to create practically, or doing mostly puppet and then being able to have some grace for some of the high speed things or whatnot, to possibly do some CGI. But I don't know. Who knows?
Use it like seasoning.
Exactly.
You know.
But there's like a moment where like, it's like if you want to see like it charge somebody, that's almost impossible to do with a puppet.
Yeah.
But you can do like layered mapping and whatnot, but it just requires a bigger budget, you know.
Yeah. Now that you mention that, yeah, it would be very difficult to have it believably just
Yeah.
which is why the scene you mentioned earlier is so effective and so cool with the lightning.
Oh yeah.
That's cool, man. Dude, it's like, look, I'm not, Jaws is one of the greatest movies of all time. Okay,
Yes.
best thing that ever happened to that movie is the shark sucked. The shark didn't work out.
Yep.
Great. The movie was a million times better because the shark didn't work out like they wanted.
Yep. You got to be more creative. You got to find ways to make it work.
Yeah.
And we definitely had to do some of the same things on Slotherhouse, albeit I think the puppet did work out really well.
No.
It worked out really, really well for where we are at, for sure. With puppets, like you want to be able to have multiple puppets to be able to pull off certain things. Like, for example, is with Gremlins, you want to be able to have like a close-up puppet. So like a giant heads, you can do like better expressions for close-ups and whatnot. I don't know.
Well, look, I think you said earlier that we don't know what the future is, but is there anything you can say about the future of Slotherhouse?
I can say that there are three different stories already written.
Okay.
I can't go into what they are because without the team has to approve which one that we're going to try to move forward with. And I don't feel comfortable going into the details without getting the approval, because I think it'd just be a little bit selfish on my part to go talking excited about the creative without knowing that we're all on the same page. But what I can promise is that we're very interested in taking this thing to a more mature level to make this thing R if we can. Now that's assuming that the finance agrees with us.
Sure.
And we want to make it. We want to bump up that. We want to bump up the absurdity, and I really want Alpha's kill count to just skyrocket. I think it'd be hilarious if Alpha's kill count was starting to like rival some of the big ones.
Oh yeah. Do like you can just rip off the Friday the 13th. Was it part 2 when they were like one, or I can't remember which one of them, but it just showed like, it didn't show the entire kill, but it showed like exactly how many kills were going to happen in the movie.
Just take out as many as you. But it's just like I just
52.
think it'd be really fun if Alpha's body count got up there.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Well, everybody check out Slotherhouse. It is on Hulu.
Yeah. And the Disney Plus bundle if you have it now too.
So weird to say go check out Aliens and Slotherhouse on Disney Plus.
Or Hellraiser. It's on Disney Plus now.
Dear God.
Here's a fun one for you. For those of you that have seen Slotherhouse already and have seen the new Hellraiser, watch them back to back and see if you can point out the location, because we used the exact same location for the movie.
Wild. Okay.
Yeah, we used the exact same location and a lot of the same crew. Interestingly enough, we shot it in Serbia, and we actually were scouting the location while they were doing set design transitions.
Huh.
Yeah. So it's a fun little activity. We're both on Disney Plus, and you can watch them back to back.
And Alpha is a Disney princess.
Exactly. Alpha's a Disney princess now.
All right, Brad, do you have time for some bonus questions?
Sure. I'm having a blast.
All right, let's do this. All right. I think you kind of already went into this a little bit earlier, but what is the thing that got you into horror?
I mean, to be completely honest, I'm just obsessed with storytelling. Like I'm like obsessed with it. I, when I was a little kid, like you could give me two action figures and I could play for 8 hours at a time. Just because like I would make up these ridiculously long stories in my head with the characters. And to me, horror, it depends on what subgenre, but to me, horror falls right in line with, my love for like 80s, you know, kids action or superhero movies. It's all about the character. Like if I've got a cool character like Jason Voorhees or Art the Clown, well then while I'm driving my car to Wendy's, my brain's off having an imagination about an Art the Clown story or a Jason Voorhees story. And it just it's weird. It's like I couldn't not write. Let's put it that way. If I never sell another movie, I will die with hundreds of them on a hard drive somewhere. So
I have a feeling you'll do some more. I don't think
hope so.
the three that are in post production. I don't think that's the end of you, man.
I hope not.
All right, first horror film you can remember.
Gremlins.
Okay.
Yeah, Gremlins. I remember actually going to the theater, which if I told you my age, so that'll give you an idea of how young I was.
That kitchen scene, man.
I sat on my dad's lap, and afterwards, I was so scared of the movie that they got me this Gizmo doll.
Oh my god, that's your original one?
That's the original Gizmo doll from 1984. Its squeaker doesn't work, but I still have that to this day.
That is amazing, dude.
So yeah,
I have like none of my old stuff. Like none of it survived. Like My Pet Monster was my favorite toy growing up. Gone.
Yeah. This one was actually a weapon. I used to use this to hit my friends with. The eyeballs probably have like particles of dried blood on them. When you're 5 or 6, you get in an argument.
Oh yeah. We had fun with My Pet Monster's breakaway handcuffs.
Oh hell yeah, that was a good one.
I do have a handmade. It's called a meat eater, but it's a kite that this guy that makes. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to get him in copyright trouble. But anyway, he made it like My Pet Monster. I gotta show y'all this.
Yeah,
it's worth the wait.
Hello, everyone. Let's see amongst ourselves.
This is good streaming. Just
oh yeah,
the host just walks away.
I just gave everybody my social.
Get my ears back on. All right, check this out.
Oh, that is dope. That's like a critter and My Pet Monster came together.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome. I love it.
It's one of my favorite pieces of my collection. Yeah, I love it.
Phenomenal.
He's got the yellow eyes, got the handcuffs. Yeah, it's great, dude.
No, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things I got.
If we're ever in the same spot, you'll have to introduce me to whoever made that.
I'll send you his info. He makes a lot of them, but just can't call them krites or critters.
He's got to make an alpha. Come on.
Oh, another friend dropped in. Kyle Putra. Damn, that Gizmo has seen some days.
Yes, it does. It has some stains to it.
Kyle is also a filmmaker.
Hi, Kyle.
This is the kind of people I run with. Indie filmmakers. Okay, next question. Gremlin's good answer. What's a film this one's a weird question. I have examples of it, but what's a film you didn't like the first time you watched it, but for whatever reason you went back and watched it again and you liked it?
All right, this is going to throw you off, but it's my favorite movie of all time is A Clockwork Orange. I hated that movie at first. My buddy who was going to film school
What?
recommended it, and I was so I don't look it now, but I played football in college, so I was all jackety jack, and trying to be all cool and like, what the hell is this crap? Stupid art, you know.
Oh
Um,
man.
but the movie just wouldn't leave my psyche. The imagery in that movie, it just stuck. And then I had to watch it again. I had to watch it again, and I had to watch it again, and I had to watch it again, and it just, man, it just, it got to the point where I'm just like, this is. I mean, I don't think I'll ever do anything that good with my career. I hope I do, but it's just like I watched that with just so much appreciation and admiration that, yeah, that's a special film.
It is. I obsessed over that. I got in this Kubrick phase at some point in like high school, and I just really obsessed with like everything he made, and
He's genius.
just watched The Shining. I people crap on Eyes Wide Shut. I love that movie.
It's good. I think it's yeah. I not only is it good, but I think it holds up even more and more. The older I get, and the more that I see all the crap that's going around in the world, it's just like you realize, like, holy moly, there's some pretty bad people out there.
This is
So
definitely happening somewhere.
somewhere this is happening on an island, you know.
Yeah. Oh, you.
Oh,
All
he
right.
called it. It's a weird.
All right. Sunnier question. Favorite subgenre of horror?
Oh, subgenre of
Yeah,
horror,
not like European silent war films or anything like that. Like,
and it's a horror for sure.
favorite subgenre of horror? Yes.
Favorite subgenre of horror.
I mean, it could be slasher sloth movies. I don't know.
No,
There's
well,
only one though.
look, my favorite like subgenre. I think I'm probably going to get all the terms wrong, but is like spooky ghost movies.
Okay.
Like ghost movies, like just ghost movies, demonic movies always get me. Like The Exorcist, The Conjuring, those movies like get me. The Ring, basically anything that I
Hey.
feel like I couldn't fight. Like
Yeah.
I have some delusion in my head that I'm still like 22 and athletic and all those things. So like in
Don't
my
we all?
head, I'm like, yeah, sure. If some like guy with an axe came, I could outrun them or potentially fight them. But like like if a spooky ghost possesses your daughter, I can't fist fight that. What are you gonna do? You just gotta like wake up, make her macaroni and cheese, and try to look the other way, right? Like I don't know how you get through that. Like your 4 a.m. suck. 3 a.m. That's my favorite subgenre, I think.
Bearded Wonder says 13 Ghosts is my all-time favorite movie. Watched it the other day.
Horrifying movie.
It's a
I
good one.
hope they don't redo it, but they probably will.
Again, I mean, it's a remake.
It is a
The one
remake.
he's talking about is a remake.
Oh Jesus, you're right.
Go watch the William Castle one, Ben. Different movie. Very different.
No, I don't. I seem. Oh man, I haven't seen the original now. Now I feel horrible.
Oh man, it's
Terrible
okay.
horror fan.
No. I hated the remake when I first saw it. I was like, this is not true to William Castle's original vision. Oh, shut up. It's fine.
I loved it.
I mean, it's good now. I mean, there you go. There's an example of one I hated when I first saw it.
There you go.
I also hated You're Next. And that movie's great.
Yeah.
I watched it again. It was great.
See, every once in a while we're wrong, you know?
Kaylee says, rule of thumb for Bradley, if your daughter gets possessed, just make mac and cheese. You better get the right one, yellow box or blue box.
Oh Jesus, yeah. You can get it wrong. Get the
All right.
wrong. I mean, look, if you get the wrong box, she might become possessed, or at least show signs of it.
She's possessed by cheese substitute, cheese product.
The
Okay.
bunny one, she hates that shit. Oh.
Least favorite subgenre of horror.
I'm not a big fan of the torture porn movies. Yeah, it just doesn't do anything for me. Like, I can appreciate the craft of it when it's done really really well. I love it, but it's so rarely done well. Like the original Saw is just a masterpiece. Um,
Yeah.
and then also, what was it? The French film? Is it Martyrs?
Martyrs, yeah.
That is also, I think, amazing. But like most of them, I can't stomach. And I think also the older I get, the more it's hard when you've got kids. I think that it's just not as enjoyable.
I
You know,
mean, that changes a lot, dude.
it
Like,
really does.
I was having this conversation the other day. I didn't really care for Pet Cemetery when I first saw it.
You know,
Have a kid, then you put yourself in the parents' shoes as Gage runs in front of a giant truck, and you're like, oh, God, this has weight to it.
yeah.
You know?
One of my favorite movies of all time is a Korean movie called Lady Vengeance.
Yeah, I love it.
Such a good movie, but again, it's like one of those movies I fell in love with. You know, when I first got out to Hollywood and was just super obsessed with the art and the craft and everything, which I still am. But like life happens too. But the second you have kids, all of a sudden the weight of that is it's something.
Yeah.
It's a lot heavier.
A Serbian film is difficult for parents to watch.
I
Speaking of
actually watched
Serbia,
that. I watched that while I was in Serbia.
oh man,
I mean, I had to.
did they? The movie's a protest of the government there, right? Like, or that's what they said. That's what the filmmaker said.
All I know is if you bring up a Serbian film to the Serbian filmmakers that I talk to,
Yeah,
um, they're not a big fan. It kind of like I think it. There's incredible artists over there. The film industry over there is phenomenal. You wouldn't believe how many good movies are produced over there. And I think that movie sort of put some of the Serbian film market in a box that it absolutely doesn't belong because
I
it's
mean,
phenomenal.
it's a it's a perfectly well made movie, but I do think it's just shock. Is all it is. Like it's. Let's see. Kaylee's got a question here. Do you feel that way with some of the scenes from Seven, or do you feel like the film was presented in a decent way? So I guess in terms of like torture porn, do you feel like it's
Seven to me, I wouldn't put in that category. Again, like I don't mind violence if it's centered around a well structured screenplay with a good thematic premise. Um, then violence is totally justified. Now, I don't always find it as palatable. Like, do I want to sit down and watch that movie with the like 2 hours of free time that I have in my day? I'm less likely to. But I think if it's well done and well thought out, I think you can tackle any subject, any type of violence or anything. It's fair game.
I
My
think
opinion.
I think it comes down to intent as well, right? Like
Mhm.
the term torture porn, like there's plenty of movies with torture in them. There's plenty of movies with gore and violence and everything, but the intent behind that is just to shock. Like Takashi Miike films, the first Hostel. Um,
Well, I
I'm not
think
even sure. I don't even classify Saw, even the Saw series. I don't usually lump it in there because Saw is like, okay, Final Destination. We didn't go to those movies because the storyline's great. We went to those movies because we were like, how are you going to kill these people, right? With Saw, I feel like it's how are those traps going to work?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
I think for me, it's like, yeah, exactly. Saw is sort of, to me, it's hit and miss. It also depends on the device and depends on the specific movie.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, like you said, intent is one big thing. Whereas I do think, horror and sexuality sometimes do dance to a similar tune. And I do think sometimes filmmakers can exploit the sexual interests and, fine. That's fair game. There's a market for it. That's all well and good. It's just, I'm not as interested in it. Um, that's one thing. And then I also think the extent of which the violence is um, shown also would be how I would define torture porn as well.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need to watch the full flesh being removed of a human or whatever.
Yeah.
To a degree, sure. Like again, like I like Martha's, but I also thought that I just thought the writing was so freaking good. I thought the premise was so good. It was so well executed. But in general, I don't need you to extend the time in which the death goes on.
Yeah. Well, it's
Not
like
necessarily shorten it either, but
about the guinea pig movies.
no.
I mean, it's got a crazy title, but like the Flower of Flesh and Blood is one of the titles, I think. And that's the tape that somehow wound up getting to Charlie Sheen, and he called the cops and said he had a snuff film, because it's just someone abducting somebody and torturing them and beating them to death or whatever. Not
Jeez.
really. I mean, it's not a real movie, but like
Yeah.
that's all it is. The story is like, I grab you, I beat you, we film it for 50 minutes. So
Now,
that's the stuff I'm like, that is truly torture porn, because the only reason you'd watch this is for the purpose of torture. It's not, there's no story,
yeah.
you
I
know.
will say, like, as an actor, I wouldn't mind terribly doing those movies, though. I like to explore the headspace of all different types of people. Um, and as an actor, like being able to like go and live out being the victim or the evil character, what have you. I find that to be fun and rewarding. But as far as like the filmmaker who has to then live with that, from the pre-production, well, the inception, the pre-production, the production, the post-production, and then every media thing that follows it, well, less interested.
Yeah, it was like the people that had to deal with, like Ruggiero Diodato with Cannibal Holocaust, and then I can't remember the guy's name. Is it Pasolini that made Salo?
I'm terrible with the
I
names.
can't remember. Yeah, I probably got that wrong, but like, it was like assassinated, I'm pretty sure, because that movie was so uh, disgusting to people. But there's a Criterion Collection Blu-ray of it.
But then the flip side of it is like I'm glad those movies exist too. I'm glad movies like that. I'm glad Green Inferno. I'm glad these movies exist because like I never want anybody to be censored in their expression of whatever art form they want because like at the end of the day there is an audience for everything. Like we're all different humans. And we're all different humans based on the day. Like there are times in which I want to watch something that's more violent and then there's other days when I want to watch, something that's entirely not violent at all. That 1984 Care Bears movie. It's there's different times in our lives. So like I don't think we should try to squash other people's ability to storytell. That's for sure. It's just what I enjoy. I think shifts with my age. I think most of us it should.
Yeah,
Like God, what if you stayed the same your whole life? That'd be interesting.
don't like it.
No, I don't want to.
Okay, what's a VHS cover you remember from the video store? Since we're the same age, roughly, you should definitely remember some VHS covers.
I mean, yeah, I remember a lot of them. It's weird. It's like you close your eyes and you can see them. I mean, Porky's is one.
Yeah, I love Porky's, man.
Porky's Sleepaway Camp was
Mm.
another. I can remember a lot of the probably the 13th ones. Part 4, particular the mask, because I wanted to see it. I mean, I can't think of
Oh,
how many
with the
times I.
knife through the eye, the buck knife. Yeah,
Yep,
man,
the
so
amount of
good.
times that I picked that tape up, and I was like, I wonder if I can convince my dad. Which is so weird because my dad had this strange thing where he would let me see a rated R ninja movie because ninja movies were big in the 80s. I'm
Yeah,
waiting for that to come back. That'd be dope. But he would let me watch rated R ninja movies that had full frontal nudity, and total murder. But he would not let me watch a horror movie. Probably because I, would get scared in the middle of the night and piss the bed, and he just didn't want to deal with it. I don't know. I haven't really asked him, but
I feel like the news when we were kids was also sort of like they were starting to try to figure out like there's a link between violence in film and negative development of children and stuff
Well,
like
I'm
that.
sure, but you also you look in like the 1970s, 1980s, and even part of the 90s was like the boom of serial killers,
Yeah,
which I think obviously they're going to try to like find what is the causation of that. Which I mean, I suppose the likely candidate because video games weren't really that strong of an influence back then because they just weren't that good. I mean, as much as they were for us, but objectively they're not that good by today's standards. But the movies, I'd suppose movies and books would be the only direct influence that you could probably imagine. Whereas
yeah.
nowadays, like, what goes on as far as like social violence is more so shootings and whatnot, which I mean, there's a multitude of potential things you could blame with that, whether it be video games or movies or TikTok or what have you.
Dixie said the Satanic Panic. It's my favorite kind of hair dye.
Have you seen his Satanic Hispanics yet?
No,
You got to. Our
I
editor,
heard it's really good.
you got to. Our editor, Mike Mendez, was one of the directors on that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll check it out. It's on Shutter, so I don't have an excuse other than I started watching Yellowstone, and I'm just getting through it. Like it's pretty good. It's no Breaking Bad,
yeah.
but it's all right. All right.
Kevin Costner's one of those actors that's weird. It's like you put him in a country, some sort of Western movie, and I can't get enough. But like, I don't want to see him in anything else. It's like
You know,
put him in a Western
Waterworld
movie. I'm
2,
watching 14 hours. Like
Tin Cup. You don't want to go watch Tin Cup?
yeah. I guess you got your sports genres too. He played the sports agent that one time too.
Let's see, Bull Durham, League of Their not a League of that Field of Dreams.
So sports
Yeah.
and westerns.
Yeah.
Boom.
And then Waterworld.
Actually, damn it, I love Waterworld. You know what? I'm a fan. This is I deproved my own point.
He's not going to finish that show though.
Oh, Yellowstone?
Yeah, he's not. They got another half season to do, and he's not in it.
That's sad.
What a bummer. Like I'm trying to. They're just going to have happen episode where like he's dead. We miss him. Okay, move along. All right. Favorite type of physical media?
Physical media?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't. What would you consider that to entail?
DVD, Blu-ray, VHS, Laserdisc, 4K.
Man, you know what? I am really bad at technology. I'm really bad at it.
Oh, you're a Mac guy. That's right.
Yeah, my wife like literally has to help me. Like I'll have to like change the USB cord or whatever to get my monitor to work on my computer so that it'll mirror up to the bigger monitor so I can write. A roundabout way of saying, I suppose DVDs would be my favorite, but yet I don't have a DVD player. So if I really wanted to watch one of my hundreds of DVDs that I have, I couldn't without my wife's help. Nostalgically, I love VHS, but
Yeah.
I was talking about this recently with somebody, and I was just like, nostalgically, it sounds great, but do I really want to spend the time to rewind everything?
No, and look, I can't get past as a kid, I loved VHS tapes, but growing up, I'm like, logically, every time I watch this tape and rewind it, the quality's slightly degraded. And if you have like a, ADHD or OCD or something, you're just going to keep thinking about every time I watch my Monster Squad tape, I'm wearing it out,
Well, or if anything goes wrong with your VCR or anything like that, it could ruin it. But I don't know. I do. I mean, again, I sound like the get off my lawn guy, but I think having a limitless supply of digital media at our fingertips at all times so that I can find any movie I want at any time.
Yeah.
It just devalues that thing. It's like, you don't know the time that you have with the people that you love until they're gone, that whole thing. Or like you watch your daughter grow up, next thing you know, and like that time's passed, it's gone. I think those are all directly correlated to value. And the more we have direct contact with that thing, whatever it is, whether it be media or another human being, the less that I think most people value it. So to have access to everything at any point in time, I just think makes it mean nothing. So I find it a bit sad that we've moved on from a limited amount of physical things.
It does seem like the fewer options you have, the more you appreciate the options that are there. So yeah, I feel you. Okay. Are you ready for a controversial question?
Sure.
All right. How do you feel about the new, well, it's not super new, it's been happening for a while now, but AI generated art? People have
Well,
opinions.
an interesting bit of Slotherhouse trivia. If you go carefully through our end credits, I believe that we are the first movie ever to put that in the end credits at the very end, next to no animals were harmed in the making of this movie. It also says no AI was used in the making of this movie. My personal opinion is that art is the expression of what it is to be human. I think the majority of art that's worthwhile is some sort of holding a mirror to society at the time in which the art was made, or at least as a review of times that were, or a prediction of times that will be, but all connected to humanity. And I think to do that without the human is soulless and pointless. That being said, I understand it's a new toy and people want to play with it.
Sure.
But I will also argue with, well, I won't, because I don't give a damn. You're going to have your opinion. People usually don't change theirs, but I would at least present my argument. When people say AI is just a tool, I would say that they're a damn fool. You're directly contributing to the programming of something that I don't know if we want to call it thinking, but it's at least mirroring what would be considered thought. And that ability isn't going to just take artists' jobs from them. That is going to be the tip of the iceberg, and those the as AI learns and procures more information, data, etc. Once that's used with other technologies, I believe that they're going to be able to eliminate most jobs. And I think that would be incredibly sad. And I think humans will lose purpose. So, yeah, it's kind of a hot button for me.
Skynet.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. We all have people. I get pretty emotional. I'm an actor first and foremost. So,
Sure.
and I'm not very good at hiding my emotions, but like we all have friends that have like committed suicide, family members, right? And or just gone through depression. And I think you can't blanket all of them, but I think many of them, when they reach that breaking point, is when they lose hope. And I think one of the main things that gives human beings hope is purpose.
100%.
So if we use AI and other technologies to take away purpose, I think you're going to have a very depressed and sick society. So, yay! I got a kid. Hope she has a better world than I do. I don't know, man. It's fucking sad.
I can see, I can see reasons for concern there for sure. I just don't think it can get to the point where people are not necessary to make art. Because there's a stark difference between some AI generated stuff versus a painting that somebody created for what's that the guy that did all the Raiders of the Lost Ark posters. You can't replicate that. With a computer can't replicate that.
You can't.
Drew Struzan is the artist name. Yeah.
You can't now, but it's like comparing Pong to, I don't know what one game of the year last year. You know,
Oh yeah, I have no
it's
idea.
like there's now metaverses being built that are, you know, pseudo limitless realities that are all built within a digital space using I forgot the engine that makes it real something. Anyways,
Unreal.
Unreal, yeah. So they're using the Unreal Engine. It's like, so
Mhm.
compare that to Pong,
Yeah,
and
I mean, yeah,
I think that's what we're looking at with AI. Now, maybe I'm just again the crazy get off my lawn guy, but like I just want my daughter to have a future, and I want that if she has a dream someday, she has a realistic opportunity to be able to pursue that dream. And my fear is not that um, AI will liberate us to do art, but rather that it will remove our ability to have jobs and things that give us purpose. Maybe I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong, Bradley.
What do
No
I?
offense.
I hope I'm wrong
Dixie
too.
Dixie says it keeps expanding. I know someone who's using it in script writing. Yeah, Chat GPT can scan through your writing and suggest some changes of prompts and rewords and stuff like that. I could see that.
Well, but
But
even then, it's like, I mean, what the monomyth of society is based off of the hero's journey, which is that, you know, essentially like all journeys are based off of one universal story, which is, you know, relatively true. Well, you know, all the people that have done story structure books, all of them have basically built their structures off of the exact same hero's journey. Well, if that's the case, then it's math, and then an algorithm can figure out that math, and it can be programmed to do that algorithm. You know, it can say, oh yeah, you need to hit this story beat on this exact same on this the page mark, and not only are we going to take that, we're going to do like subgenres. So it's like, okay, we know what the algorithm is for those specific story structures, but then we're going to do the subgenre of slasher movies. Well, your comparables are, you know, 80s slasher movies and early 2000s buddy comedies. Well, let's have the algorithm set up so that it knows where all those beats are and what are the necessary things. And
mhm.
again, look, I'm not the computer guy. Yeah, I'm probably just being the nutso, but I think it's possible, you know. But I'm also the dude that wrote a movie about a killer sloth, so what the fuck do I know?
I do think we're going to start seeing a lot of movies that are about AI. I mean, we've already seen some that are about AI taking over. I mean, I jokingly said Skynet, but that is it's the freaking Terminator,
Well,
right? That is
Frankenstein is that. Frankenstein's a warning about that. It's, you know, it's
playing
yeah,
God.
yeah. What I will say is that I do think, um, I mean, everybody's got to do what they feel is right in their own, you know, what they believe to be moral and just. But if I'm aware that something is made with artificial intelligence, I won't spend money for it, nor will I give it my time. I think that's the only voice we have. You know, it's the same way that like people are like, oh my gosh, we love the fact that Slotherhouse was made with practical effects. Why? Well, because it looks better and because it actually shows skill as filmmaking, and we know it's real. Okay, same thing. You
Yeah.
know, um, it's like there are people like there's nothing I want to do with my life more than tell stories, aside from raising my, you know, family. But
Yeah.
um, there's nothing I want to do with my life more than tell stories. And someone's going to pick up a computer with no storytelling ability, nor do they have the drive or, you know, willingness to actually study the craft that has been perfected for thousands of years. Like they're just going to have a AI do it. That's a hobby. I don't know.
Well, I've got another controversial question. The rest of them are softballs, by the way.
I avoid controversial.
Do you?
No, I clearly didn't, did I?
No. Okay, this one's a little different though. What are your thoughts on canceling a movie? So someone's making a film, and then someone involved with the film has some bad behavior. Could be alleged bad behavior. I don't know, but the film is canceled. do to? What do you think of cancel culture? I guess so. The
I
shorter version of the question.
I think everything depends on the circumstance. I think everything depends on the circumstance. Like, I mean, I'm going with hypotheticals, but if a movie came out and we just found out the lead was like, doing things to children, yeah, maybe let's go ahead and stop that movie from reaching the light of day. Although, in the same breath, there's people that invested their time and money, and there's people that are going to lose everything that had nothing to do with that individual
Yeah.
doing those actions. So there's that. But as far as canceling something just because you don't particularly like it, like, I know Star Wars fans fight a lot, and this is weird. I'll talk about AI till the cows come home. But with Star Wars, I have a strong opinion on a lot of it, but I won't get into it publicly because I'd love to be involved in Star Wars someday. But I don't think you necessarily quote unquote cancel something just because you think it's terrible or doesn't fit with how you see that thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that individually you can be like, yeah, I'm not watching that. I'm not going to give it my money. I'm not going to give it to my time. And anytime anybody talks to me about it, I'm going to tell them why I think it's horrible. But to go out there and try to like rabble rouse to get people to like cancel something, I'm not a big fan of that.
What is the thing where everyone where you sign it? I'm petitioning to cancel Star Wars Episode 5 because blah 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 was a political blah blah blah.
But then what happens is it's like if you do that, then other people on the other side that disagree with you then just try to do the same thing on the other side. And it's just like, I'd rather just have it like, okay, cool, art got made, you think it's good, I don't, or vice versa, and support it or don't.
Vote with your wallet.
Exactly. I think vote with your wallet. And then for the people that are true fans of something, whatever it is, we all have those fun arguments. You get a group of horror fans together and they can argue about who the best Jason Voorhees was, over some beers. And that's great. I think that's wonderful and healthy and it's a good time.
That's discussion. That's not just,
also
posturing.
Canceling individuals for saying something stupid. I just think of all the stupid shit I've said in my day, especially in my 20s when there wasn't a whole lot of cell phones. There's so much that I regret saying and doing. Like an example is this that the meme girl that's out right now, the Hawk Tua girl.
Oh yeah.
This girl, I don't know her from Adam. I don't give a shit other than the fact that like I really feel bad for her. She has to be 20 something years old. She's out with her friends, joking around, clearly intoxicated.
Yeah.
And she makes one comment on a camera that she probably thought wouldn't go anywhere. And now I guess she was like, I could be wrong on this, but this is what I read. I guess she was like a teacher. And now she's not only losing her job, she's going to lose her whole career.
So that was apparently just made up. Like,
was it?
Yeah. She, that was some website made up that she lost her job. I don't know.
Well, but for an example, it is conceivable, and there have been people that have lost their jobs for things like that. And in that case, I just look, if you hurt another person, if you commit a crime against another person, fine. Let the law do what the law does, and bring them to justice and see if they're guilty, et cetera, et cetera. But as far as like the court of public opinion, where we just basically destroy someone based off of what we think is true.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with that.
No, I'm with you on that. I have been laughing at the memes for sure. But it's stupid. Just it's fine.
I do feel bad for her though, because she said what she said, but like she's got a family.
She's apparently like signing merch. Like there's hats that say like Hawk Tua 2024.
I got this all backwards, man. She's making fun.
I think she's laughing all the way to the bank.
She's not a teacher. She's a stripper. What are you talking about?
I don't know what she does.
I have no idea.
Apparently she's from Tennessee though. So
Oh, there you go.
okay, let me give you a couple more here. These are just fun questions, and we'll wrap up because we are getting a little long in the tooth. Three films, only three, that every horror fan should see. That are must see films.
Oh man, that's so controversial. It is,
What
yeah, yeah, that's a big one.
we just talked about how when you limit things, they actually get better.
That's true. All right, so to me, I think the original Exorcist.
Okay,
That's to me that was the scariest horror movie of all time. So I absolutely unequivocally have to put that one in there.
sure.
I also will go ahead and say you have to watch the original Nightmare on Elm Street because to
Right.
me that's my favorite character in the history of horror, Freddy. And this is the one where it's like I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but I think the original Conjuring, that movie to me was horrifying. And I think James Wan absolutely is just a genius. Um,
It's a good movie.
yeah, but I know a lot of people don't like the whole like because he does a lot of jump scares. But I think it's like everybody likes different things, and like I think James Wan's ability to set up for a surprise is, gosh, so freaking good. And I mean, now we're sort of used to his way of doing it, I suppose, because he's been doing it for so long, or the people that are following what he did. But like, I think the original Conjuring to me is just so scary.
It's very good. Well, it's like a saturation thing too, right? Like when that film first came out, everybody's like, "Oh, it's so good." The first Insidious, so good. Um, Sinister, so good.
Yep.
Those all kind of come out around the same time, I
Yep.
think. But then, like the Marvel movies, to bring that up again, the first
Yep.
like 10 years of Marvel movies, nobody said anything bad about basically any of them,
We
and
were
then all
just
of a
happy
sudden,
to see the comic book characters like how they were in the comic books. We were
yeah,
just like, holy shit, they can actually. The Incredible Hulk's 10 foot tall and can jump through buildings. This is
yeah.
amazing.
But then you get 15 plus years, and then people are like, why is Captain Marvel a girl? And, they're fine. The movies are fine.
Yeah.
Don't it's whatever. Um, your favorite underappreciated horror film that more people should see?
Oh man. I
See, this one is tough.
This is really tricky. It's weird. Slotherhouse. No.
I want more people to watch this
I want
movie
more people to watch my movie. Damn it.
on Hulu and Disney Plus.
On Hulu and Disney Plus. Get yours today. You know what? I'm gonna go. Geez, I'm gonna pick out some of the ones that influenced me as a little kid. That I don't know if you'd necessarily qualify them as horror per se, but they were what shaped my brain, which allowed me to love horror as I got older. Um, and those were movies like I'm going to name a couple of them.
Sure.
Dark Crystal. When I was a kid, again, not a
Yeah.
horror movie, but when you're 7 years old in the 1980s, that's a freaking horror movie.
Yeah.
So was The Secret of Nim. The Secret of Nim was horrifying with that giant owl and the rats. And then another one was a movie called Little Monsters.
Oh yeah, I know Little Monsters.
And all of those movies, it's weird. It's like I have hardcore horror movies that I absolutely love, that are just absolutely, like The Exorcist and, those movies that are just straight horror movies. But I think a lot of the movies that impacted me as a storyteller are ones that can make you cry too. It's like I want a movie where I go on a full journey.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but like those movies all impacted me in a way that they scared me at that time in my life. They all used practical effects, or in the Secret of Nim's case, it was obviously, animation.
Yeah.
But then all of them, at some point in the movie, you had like a touching moment because the character's arc came to a full cycle. And I just, if you can achieve that in a movie, I really appreciate it. And we really were striving for that with Slotherhouse. And some people think that the characters were two-dimensional and what have you. I hope not. That certainly wasn't the case that we were trying to do, but I really did try to achieve something where all of the characters had some sort of an arc, and so that you ended up caring about the characters at least a bit.
Oh, we got a question. It's nonsense from Brandon Posey. He says, "When is Slotherhouse 5 coming out?"
Okay, so legit, it's on the docket. We have pitched the idea of doing them out of sequence, just because why not? Because fuck it, right? It's a ridiculous. Slotherhouse in and of itself is ridiculous. So
they did it with Thanksgiving.
Yes,
they did 1 and 3. There's no 2.
Yeah, but then also the Slotherhouse 5. That would lend itself to that concept.
Yeah.
So there's one of two ways to do this. Either we try to go for 5 next, or we have to wait until we can get there. Both my partner Katie and I want to do it, but obviously anytime you're doing something that is in a certain budget range, you can't just wave a magic wand and just do whatever you want.
I don't know why people can't just make money manifest at conventions and to make their films. And
tried. It is interesting though when you get the pitches out though, when you pitch the idea to a company. I won't say who, but like you pitch ideas to certain companies that are pretty high up there, and they're like, they kind of look at you like, what the are you talking about? It's like, yeah, I want to do this.
All right. Called it Brandon says, you called it nonsense and he got my joke. Eat it, Corey. Thank you for stopping by. Posey. Thanks. All right. Last one. This is the one that tugs at people's heartstrings.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Not in a bad way. We're not going to get you fired up again. What advice would you give an up and coming artist who's interested in the horror genre? So doesn't have to be a filmmaker. It could be any kind of artist that's into the dark art.
Well, I mean, honestly, I would say it's the same advice I'd give to anybody that's interested in anything. Is like, what do you want to achieve? Which it goes back to a lesson I learned from. I used to do stand-up comedy, and my stand-up comedy coach would always preach. He'd say, "What are you trying to say?" Before you ever try to do anything, what are you trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
I.e., what is your thematic premise? I.e., what is your purpose? I.e., what is your intention? What do you want to achieve, right? So, like, if you're into something and you just want to further explore it for your own enjoyment, well, that's a different conversation, Or if you're someone that wants to be a filmmaker, well, that's a different conversation. I would say the area that I feel most qualified to speak to anybody would be as a filmmaker. And the best advice that I would give to a filmmaker is, yes, be an artist. That's great. It's fantastic. But I think the hardest part about being an artist is surviving in between projects and your attempt to try to hopefully have the career that you're trying to achieve. Well, that requires you to make something that is marketable and profitable.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not suggesting necessarily for someone to sell out. By all means, that's not the case. I think you should speak to your own truth and to your own voice and tell the stories you want to tell. But I think as you're pursuing those, I think, each of our brains could dive down a million rabbit holes. I just say be selective of the rabbit holes that you go down, so that when you go down them for the next 3 to 4 years of your life, it has a higher likelihood that when you come out of that rabbit hole, that you're able to make another movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to put food on the table.
You do.
So,
Yep.
and I guess, part of the democratization of entertainment is that there are multiple avenues that you can make money through. Now, are you going to make tens of thousands of dollars making TikToks? Probably not. But there's other things you can do to kind of make money now. Like you said, punch up other people's scripts. You can, or screenplays. Help people level up their cinematography, voiceover work. I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there. Really, you have to make connections. You have to talk to people, and you have to hustle a little bit, right?
Yeah, and especially in the beginning, don't be afraid to help out. I mean, it sucks that we're in an industry where a lot of times you're gonna have to go on the set and maybe help out for less than what you're originally worth. But in this industry, unfortunately, that's just for what's required a lot of times to get your foot in the door, because a lot of it is networking. So yeah, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, and don't be afraid if someone's like, hey, could you come on and help out with this thing that you have a little bit of skill in.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't suggest that you come on and be an armorer on a movie if you don't know anything about it, because someone could get hurt. But if you have a little bit of understanding of the set design, and it's a limited set design with a limited budget, and you can help out your friends, why not do it?
Yeah.
I'm wholeheartedly for that. I'd love to get involved more in some of the films in the area, just as an actor and whatnot. I'd love to get people in the area to hire me to come on and help to rewrite some of their scripts and help to punch up some things. That'd be fantastic too. But in general, I'd love to get involved, because that's the way the business works.
Yeah. Very well said.
Yeah.
Well, hey, everybody, if you stuck around to this point, thank you for doing so. We have been talking for a while. I want to thank you, Bradley Fowler, for coming out and talking to me tonight, man. It's been a blast.
I really appreciate you, and you've been wonderful and super kind this whole time, Frank and Con, and otherwise.
Well, that's what they say about us. They're like, these boys don't make any money, but they sure are nice.
There you go. Well, you know what?
Put that honestly, on a shirt.
At the end of the day, that might be better than the other way around. I'd rather spend my time with people that are good human beings than rich people that are not good human beings.
I'm 100% on that team. I agree. Guys, go to Hulu. Go watch Slotherhouse. You're gonna have a good time, okay? And follow Bradley on social media, bfowler29 and Slotherhouse movie in the ticker there on Instagram. I didn't grab the Facebook stuff because Facebook stuff is hard to put in the ticker. But anyway, y'all use Instagram anyway.
Just put my phone number on there. Would not.
Hold on, guys. I got his credit card number. Hold on. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, Bradley. Ben, thank you for sticking around the whole time. I appreciate it. All right, man. We'll see you next time. Guys, wait for Slotherhouse 2.
Yeah, or 5.
Or 5. And stay spooky, my dudes. Bye.